For FinTech Academy registration banner and Ingress, first I want to cover just some general overview information as far as what the courses are and then some advising parameters for you. So most of you should have already received your course schedule for spring 2020, and that will have all of the course information that you need to build sections for the term. On the screen here, you can see the 5 different courses that will be available in the spring. There will be 2 sections of each course offered for a total of 10 course sections. And there are a few courses that will be offered in a new format that we will cover just a little bit more on a future slide. Now, for some of the background, if a student, any of the good candidates for this program would generally have some background knowledge in these topics listed, things like business, IT, cybersecurity, data science, and of course other related fields. That is not to say that students who do not have this background would not be successful in the program, but typically in this career field, these are the types of backgrounds that companies look for and the types of knowledge that would be useful in beginning in these courses. So if you have candidates that are, or students that are interested in the program, but they're not sure if it's a good fit for them, this is some of the information you can kind of bring up and talk with them with, see if they might be a good candidate. So here are some competencies or some prior knowledge that students should be familiar with or exposed to be successful in the courses. And it includes things like income statements, balance sheets, time value, money calculations, stocks and bonds, being able to evaluate capital budgeting projects, things like that. And these competencies will be provided in embedded modules within all future FTA courses, but it's always good for students to have some prior knowledge in preparation for these courses just to be sure that they're not lost when they first get into a class. Okay, here are some of the other things that are specific to the banner and Ingress processes course building that we're going to cover. We're going to look at some of the term, just kind of general overview of the term and how that works. We're going to look at how to set up banner, courses in banner. We're going to look at some of the term processes, provide you with some additional resources, and then we will have some time for questions. So for the general term process, students will follow your normal admissions procedure, and that's not listed here, but for this particular academy, students are not necessarily applying to your institution for these courses, although perhaps they are. So your normal admissions process will be followed. And then the first kind of real piece of the Georgia FinTech Academy is when the students are interested in the courses and actually register in banner. And there is no intro quiz for this program at this time, so that's their first piece is they register in banner for the courses. And then about 2 weeks before the classes start, we will begin sending welcome emails to all students. That email will contain information about how to log into GoView, where to find the academic calendar, where to find their textbooks that are required, and what they need to do in that first week to be counted as present in the course, things like that. So it's a real good overview for students of what is expected and how to get logged in and how to get started in the course in that welcome email. Now we will continue to send that welcome email from that 2 weeks before classes begin date through the end of drop add to make sure that every student that's added gets that welcome email. In this period before classes actually begin, students will not be able to access the actual FinTech Academy courses. They will gain access to those on the first day of class. But in the meantime, they will have access to an eConnections tutorial course. And what that is just a general course that has information about the FinTech Academy. And it allows the student to practice navigating in GoView, to practice submitting quizzes, to practice doing discussion posts, replying to discussion posts, all of those things. They can look at the email tools, and it provides them information about all of those topics so that students can become familiar with GoView before their classes start, and they have like a safe space to practice and play around in so that they don't have to worry about affecting anything within their course or affecting their grade. The next piece of the term is attendance verification, and instructors will generally evaluate whether a student has been absent or present in that first week of class, and then they will be submitting attendance verification in Ingress in the very beginning of that second week. Now, institutions will have the opportunity to pull that information back into their banner system, and we'll cover that process a little bit later, but that will happen according to the Common Academic Calendar. Next is the withdrawal period, where students will withdraw from courses if they determine that they need to do so, and that process is also a little different for this program, and we'll cover that in more detail as well. And then, of course, final grades. Those will be submitted in Ingress by the instructors according to the calendar, and then that information can be pulled back into your banner system as well. So now we're going to talk about the specific pieces of banner setup, and these here are some of the background setup information. So you will need to set up, I've mentioned before, that Common Academic Calendar. You'll set up your part of terms with those full session dates because these courses will be full session courses. And it's very important that you use those Common Academic Calendar dates because these courses are collaborative and shared between many institutions, and we want to make sure that students are seeing those shared dates on their schedule when they're registering for these classes. Also, your fees will be $199 per credit hour plus any applicable institutional fees, and that is very similar to your eMajor programs if you participate in those. So if you already have a part of term that is full session and you already have a part of term, if that even applies to your fee assessment at your institution, that could potentially be used, but otherwise you may need to set up a new part of term. For withdrawals, students will be following an eCampus withdrawal process where they submit a form, and that form is then routed to the institution for processing in Banner. So in order to restrict students from withdrawing themselves through your BanWeb system at your institution, you will need to make sure that you refrain from defining the withdrawal code that allows students to web withdraw in the SFAR STS form in Banner. If you have any questions about that process, please let us know. We're happy to walk through or show you some examples, but it's as simple as taking that web withdrawal code out for this particular part of term. As I mentioned earlier, there will be no introduction quiz for this program at this time, so you do not need to worry about setting that up in Banner at all. Then earlier I mentioned some courses that would be a little bit different for this program than what you might be used to. We're calling these particular course options FinTech Connect, and what these courses are they're similar to a hybrid format with a little bit of a twist, but each of these FinTech Connect courses have a weekly scheduled class meeting. If a student attends Georgia State, they will be attending that weekly scheduled class meeting face-to-face on their campus. For all other institutions, there will be a virtual class meeting option through GoView. More information will be provided in their course about how they get that set up and prepared for those virtual class meetings. But they will attend the specific class meeting at a certain day and time. And if you review the course schedule that was sent out earlier this month, there is information there that shows the days and times for those particular sections. And then we'll talk about course comments a little bit later, but that will be included there as well. One other piece that is a little bit different for these courses is some of the courses may require 1 or 2 proctored exams. All of the courses do not necessarily require those. That will be determined by the instructor for the individual course and whether or not that proctored exam is required. But we will follow the normal eCampus testing process for this, so students will have an option to test at their campus testing center, at another approved testing center, whether that's at a separate USG institution, a technical college, or another approved testing center. And they will also have an option to test virtually with ProctorU. And those tests So the cost may vary some if they're looking at the different testing centers, but for ProctorU, it's $20, and students have that option in every one of the courses that require the proctored exam. Also, some of these courses will require a textbook. There are a couple that have OERs. For those that do require a textbook, that information will be included on the eMajor website, and students will see that on their course syllabus. Institutional bookstores have the option to carry these textbooks if they wish to do so, but they are not required to carry the textbook. We see some bookstores will provide the textbooks automatically. Some bookstores will not carry and will not order the textbooks, and then some bookstores wish to order those special on student request. So it's really up to the institution how they want to handle textbooks. But of course, students can always purchase from a third party, whether that be Amazon, textbook.coms, or whatever vendor that they're comfortable with. Okay, so now to the nitty-gritty, how to set up your courses in Prospect. There are two basic scenarios for course building for FinTech Academy. And which scenario you will need to use will depend on whether or not your institution has approved the standard FTA course designations at your institution, and whether that has gone through your normal institutional governance process to be approved. If you have approved the FTA courses, then the process is a little bit simpler. You will build the standard FTA courses at the catalog level and in SOSECT. And the two most important pieces of how you build those courses are the subject, course number, and section number. Those must match exactly what is listed on the schedule. And then the integration partner code must be I receive. If any of that information is different or missing, then the courses will not pair in Ingress. Seats will not be assigned, and students will never gain access to their courses. And we will be monitoring Ingress to make sure that everyone is able to successfully sync their courses. So if you have your courses built and you want to make sure they're there, we'll be reaching out if we're not seeing them. But you can, of course, reach out to us to make sure that you can see the courses if you want to have that information really quickly. Then for your part of term, we've already discussed that we'll need to follow the Common Academic Calendar. For your seats, you will need to leave those blank, as those will be assigned by Ingress. That process will happen about every 10 minutes. It will redistribute and rebalance the seats between all of our partner institutions. For instructor, you will leave that blank. That will be assigned by the sending institution, and instructors will be listed on the course schedule on the eMajor website if a student is interested in who is teaching the course for the semester. And then the course comments, we will look at specific examples on a later slide, but those will vary by course because they are tailored very specifically to the requirements of the course and whether the course has a textbook, whether there's a proctored exam, those types of items. So we'll take a look, and on the course schedule, each of the courses has been given a preferred course comment so that you can take a look at those when you're building courses. For institutions who have not approved the standard FTA course designations, the process is a little bit different. You will still build your FinTech Academy courses at the catalog and at the section level as well. But you will also be building an institutional course equivalent, and that's the course that you have approved that is equivalent to the course at your institution. So some of the differences: for your FTA courses, you will build those with 0 credit hours because we do not want to be granting students 6 credit hours for a 3 credit hour class. So you will be building the FTA course with 0 credit hours. Your institutional course equivalent will have the regular course hours, and it will be set up how you would normally set the course up at your institution, with a couple of specifics to FinTech Academy. Again, for the FTA course, your subject course number and section number must match exactly, and your integration partner code must be I receive. Your part of term will be the part of term you've already designated. Again, you will leave your seats blank and your instructor blank. So not much is different about setting up that FTA course other than the 0 credit hours. And then you will also set up the institutional equivalent course as a concurrent prerequisite to your FTA course. Some institutions find that they can use a co-requisite setup, and that will work for them as well. And that's really up to you as an institution what works best for you as far as co-req, concurrent, prereq. But these courses do need to be linked in some way in Banner so that students are not able to register for one without the other. When you're building your institutional course equivalent, you'll use your normal subject, course, and section number and your normal hours. Your integration partner code will be blank. This institutional course equivalent will not be processed through Ingress. Only the FTA course will. So you will not need to enter that information on the institutional course equivalent. Your part of term will need to match, and you will also need to assign seats to the institutional course equivalent. This is where it's a little different than your normal processes, especially because the seats count will not necessarily match between the FTA section and your institutional course equivalent. That FTA course, those seats are going to be balanced between multiple affiliate institutions, so those are going to be changing every 10 minutes as students register, drop, whatever the case is. But your institutional course equivalent seats will be only touched by your institution's students. So those seats will flow out or be used up much more slowly than your FTA course sections. So we typically advise institutions to set that seat cap a little bit higher than what they're expecting their enrollment to be so that students do not get an error when they're trying to register for courses based on that institutional course equivalent seat count. What will keep students from registering for the courses if there are no seats available is that 0 seat count on the FTA courses. Since these courses will be set up as concurrent prereqs or as co-requisites, if a student cannot register for the FTA course and it has 0 seats available, then they will not be able to register for the institutional course equivalent, even if there are seats showing as available. Some institutions may choose to manually register students, and if you wish to do that, you can make the courses, you can handle the seat availability however you wish. You could potentially override students into the course, but especially if students are registering themselves, you want to make sure that that is not the reason that students aren't able to get into their classes. Okay, so we talked a little bit about course comments. Since these courses are somewhat complicated, we want to make sure that when students are registering, they have general information about the courses that help them make a decision about whether or not they want to take the class. So if you look at the course schedule that you received, each comment for each course may be slightly different. And we sent 2 different course comment options for each course, depending on whether you're using Scenario 1 or Scenario 2 to build your classes. So the Scenario 2 option where you have the co-requisite or concurrent prerequisite, those comments have co-req model in parentheses at the beginning. And these are not all of the course comments that exist for these 10 courses, but a few of the examples. So it includes information about the course being 16 weeks and taught online through GoView. They might include information about textbooks. If there is a free textbook or a low-cost textbook option, it may have that comment there. It may have information about proctored exams if those are required. And then for those courses that are FinTech Connect, where they have a scheduled class meeting, information about that would be included, that the class will meet Thursdays at 4:30 to 7:15 or whatever the case may be. And then for those courses or for those institutions that use the co-req or co-requisite, the concurrent prereq or the co-requisite model, there is an additional comment there that includes that the student must register for the institutional course equivalent, and that particular comment should also be included on the institutional course equivalent, referring back to the FTA course with that appropriate CRN number. And this just makes sure that students understand at the beginning that they do have to register for 2 classes as part of this course. And if you have any questions about the course comments, definitely reach out to us and let us know. You can revise these a little bit, but we do advise that you keep that basic information in there to make sure students are aware of all of the factors regarding the courses. So now for term processes. One of the most important term processes that you will ever touch is the ZSRGDIS process, ZSRGDIS. This is what transfers any enrollments from Banner to Ingress and then to GoView. So if the ZSRGDIS process is not run, students may not see seats available in a class. They will never gain access to their courses. As they're dropped, they would not be dropped from classes. So it can really cause issues for students if this process is not run. That's why we say it's the most important process that you'll see in connection with any Ingress processed courses. Now, institutions, we would advise normally that you at least run the process once a day. Multiple times a day is preferable, just as things are flowing in and out of Banner, making sure that those are pushed over to Ingress and GoView. But at least once daily is preferred to make sure that students do not experience a major delay in getting into or out of their classes. Now, an auto job is available or is possible for this process. And if you do not already have an auto job for the process and you're interested, please reach out to us and we can connect you with another institution that has already implemented an auto job for the process so that it gives you a starting point. You don't have to start from scratch on that. And for those of you that are Banner hosted, we do have multiple institutions that have automated this job, even though they're Banner hosted, so that is still an option there as well. The first piece that ZSRGDIS really touches is once you build these classes, you'll need to run this process, and that's what initially pairs the course in Ingress and allows the seat balancer to run and assign seats between institutions. Then once you have begun to run this process on a regular basis, what it does is it will push any registration or person record changes into a temporary Banner table. That temporary Banner table is picked up by Ingress every single hour. So it looks for any changes on an hourly basis, and then it pushes that information out to GoView. So your changes could be pushed to Ingress and GoView every hour. A lot of institutions have determined that they will set that auto job to every 3 hours just so that it doesn't slow any campus processes down. But of course, that's up to you and your Banner team and what works best for your campus. The next term process we want to cover is attendance verification. There are a couple of ways that you can process attendance verification, whether that's manually by pulling a report from Ingress, or if you have your own homegrown campus process, you can use that Ingress report to process that. But we do recommend using the Banner processes ZSRAver and Zernosh. That's just what I call them, but the form names are listed there on the screen. And what that does is it pulls the records from Ingress when an instructor submits those and then pulls them into your Banner process. If you're using Scenario 2, you will still need to manually pull those records from your FTA courses over to your institutional course equivalents. How you do that is up to you. There is an output report that comes from those processes that you can use, or you can pull a report from Ingress to process attendance on the institutional course equivalents. The next process is eCampus billing, and there will be a census date based on your non-payment date, and then we request special populations to allow for accurate billing. So that's things like dual enrollment, 62 plus waivers, and TAP, just to make sure that you're billed appropriately for courses. Then gated withdrawals that we've discussed earlier, where you will be restricting the withdrawal process for students. They will submit a withdrawal form through the eMajor website, and then what that does is it submits a withdrawal form in SEEDS, the Student Engagement and Analytics Data System. Each institution will have a campus representative that will be assigned an account in SEEDS where they can go to access those withdrawals and then process them in Banner. Again, if you're using Scenario 2, the campus rep will also need to withdraw their student from the institutional equivalent section as well. And then finally, final grades. There is a Banner process called ZSRGRD, ZSRIGRD, that will transfer those grades from from Ingress into Banner. Again, if you're using Scenario 2, institutions will need to transfer those grades to the institutional equivalent section. So whoever your campus representatives are that are involved with these processes or with these courses will need to be very aware of how you have your courses set up to make sure that everything is processed appropriately on both of the sections in your Banner system. Here are some additional resources that I'd like you to be aware of. Of course, the eMajor website will have a lot of great information for students. There's also an eMajor admin site, and what's housed there is general policies and procedures, archived schedules and calendars, information like that. So you can access that as an institution. It's not generally for students, it's more for the institution or affiliate partners. But definitely take a look at that. We're working on getting all of these sites updated with the FinTech Academy information. There's also the link to Seeds there for your campus reps that will be processing your withdrawals. And then we have an eCampus knowledge base, and this houses a lot of great documentation for affiliate partners. It includes things like how to process attendance, how to process grades, things like that, general campus processes that you may need more information on. It also has a specific page where it has documentation for students surrounding things like how to withdraw, how to register for a proctored exam, and you are welcome to send those links to students as they have questions and utilize those resources. And if there's ever anything listed on the KBase or that's missing from the KBase that you think would be helpful documentation, please let us know, and we're happy to develop that and add that as well. Here's my contact information, and if you have any questions while you're building classes, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help you work through any questions or specific course setup issues that you may encounter. And then we'll take a look at the chat. If I don't think I've see any questions in chat, but if anybody has a question now, you're welcome to ask that or to put it in the chat box, and we'll try to answer those questions now. Okay, Lila asked, for campus, do I select eMajor Consortium? That's really up to you as an institution what you designate the campus as. eMajor Consortium might be a great option for you, but it's up to you and whether or not that really is the appropriate campus, because institutions kind of set that campus code at their own leisure. So if you think that that will work and it's not going to affect any kind of reporting at your institution for these courses to be listed as eMajor Consortium, absolutely you can use that, but that's really more of an institutional decision to determine what's your best campus code. Mercy asked, do we need to add the course note concerning the ProctorU flat fee like we do for eCore courses? Yes, for those courses that require a proctored exam on the course schedule, you'll see a course comment that includes information about that fee, just like there are for eCore courses. And we will, after the session, send out the recordings along with some documentation about building courses and the course schedule to those of you that register for this course. Thank you for asking that, Laura. Are there any other questions? Okay, if there are no other questions, we're all wrapped up for the day. If you think of anything later, please feel free to reach out to me. You can call me or email me, and I'm happy to help you with any of your questions. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.